Hello, fellas. My name is Afolabi Olaluku. This is a short talk slash discussion, and it's called Flashpoint. I'm here with my brother Mustafa Jinodu, and we're going to be talking about what the future holds for America and the world if Donald Trump returns to the White House. A lot of people are a bit agitated and scared, having had his rhetoric of the past 2 or 3 days and his negative talk about immigrants and stuff like that. But we'll have an accomplished analyst here in Mustafa Jinodo that will throw more light on
Thank you very much.
what we're about to discuss. So Mustafa, please go ahead. Trump
Thank you,
in
and
the White House.
thank you, and everybody. We want you to support our global politics, our show. I'm in Washington D.C. Mustafa Janadu. Yeah, he gave me too much credit. In reality, I'm just a wizard. I'm just a wizard. I like to use words and I like to talk about politics and things. But this is a very serious issue. We're having issues in Israel with Gaza. We're having issues in Ukraine with Russia. Now there's terrorism with Russia. And I think we know who we can thank for this. It would be the Biden regime. So before anybody asks what they think will be the consequences of Trump winning, we need to ask ourselves, what will be the consequences of keeping Biden in office? Personally, I believe that the president of the US is a figurehead, just like Obama and past presidents. They're figureheads, and the US is controlled by banks and capitalist interests and the West. So one could be, and I'm gonna take a stance in which I'm not going to say that what I'm saying is true, but there's a theory which I think might be valid, which is that no matter who becomes president, everything is kind of determined because the banks and the power holders control everything. And this is something similar to what I was saying in Russia. I'm getting off topic, but Putin doesn't run Russia. Putin is a central figure who has to please the oligarchs and the traditionalists and the communists. So, and the same thing in the US, the presidents have to please the banks. But I'll end with this and I'll come to you, Afolabi. It's very clear that there's a power struggle in the US amongst the elite. And I think that the most dangerous element is the liberal movement, which Biden represents. Now, I think that Trump represents a sort of appeal to the right-wing bigots and things like that. But I think the Biden wing is more dangerous because he's talking about going to war with China. He's funding a war in Russia. In the US Senate or Congress, I think it was Mitch McConnell said that even if we lose the war in Ukraine, it's good because we're killing Russians. And Biden is funding bombing of people in Israel. So my thing is that let's again ask ourselves the question, do we want the Biden faction of power in America to stay in power to lead us down a path to war, or at least to a lot of violence around the world? Or do we want Trump? And I will say that I don't want either of them. But I'm just saying, people think it's obvious that Trump is the problem with America. He's not.
I wanted to ask you something, Mustafa.
Yeah.
Generally speaking, how have the Republican presidents behaved with Russia compared with the Democrat presidents in the past? For instance,
okay, I'll be clear with you. So the Republicans saw in the past people like Reagan and guys in the past, they saw Russia as an enemy, but they respected Russia as it's kind of like if in football, when Man City's about to play, I'm not going to say Arsenal's not good enough. Man City playing Man U. You're enemies, but Liverpool, you respect each other. So during the time when we had past presidents like Nixon, we respected China and respected Russia, but we were at them. But we didn't antagonize them because it's like poking the bear. And if Russia pokes the American bear too, they're going to be in for big trouble. But the Democratic presidents are like, oh, Russia is it's an authoritarian country, it's evil, we need to fight it. And they're poking the bear. And it's disastrous. So I will say that the Republicans have fueled mistrust of Russia, and even I wouldn't call it hate, but they've said that Russia is our enemy. But it seems like the Democratic presidents, and also Hillary Clinton was like this too, they're antagonizing Russia and they're saying we need to bring them down. And they're saying it under a cloak of liberalism that, oh, it's a very illiberal country, so we need to fight them. And I think that was one of the advantages of the Republicans. The Republicans aren't as liberal as the liberals, and then they're more authoritarian. But under authoritarian rule, you tend to have order and you tend to have things that keep everything stable and calm. So, but what are your thoughts on everything? What do you think would be the consequences if Trump won, or what have you been hearing? Or you can either give me your view or what you've been hearing could be the consequences if Trump wins. Then I'll get back into that again.
I'm a bit scared and frankly baffled because Donald Trump's campaign rhetoric seems to center around dehumanizing language for immigrants and the talk of revenge. There's a talk of revenge. It's like there's a vendetta. I would have preferred if his campaign was centered around something else. It appears he's coming back. He has some unfinished business with the Democrats. And he even referred to the January 6th events. He was calling them instead of calling them troublemakers. So I'm scared, really.
Okay, but here's my question. You're in Nigeria, so what are you scared about? What do you think will happen? All of these are internal problems of America.
Internally is going to be basically budgeting. Budgeting for military and defense is going to drop significantly, especially if it's to support NATO. That's going to happen.
But okay, so I would take it that you're in support of NATO, right?
Not quite. But what I'm saying is that by the time we get, okay, what happens to Ukraine from your own side?
Okay, so here's my thing. So here's the thing. But why, as an American, why should I care if Russia beats Ukraine? Why should I care? That's my question. And why should you care as a Nigerian if Russia beats Ukraine?
Well, personal interest. If you look at America and the rebuilding work in Ukraine, a lot of their companies will profit from that reconstruction.
Oh yeah. So what you're saying then?
Economic interest for US.
Okay, but here's the thing. So here's the thing. So 70% of the weapons that have been there was a study. I think they said 70% of the weapons that were sent to Ukraine to help them didn't show up. So it was due to it was due to corruption. So my argument is that the war industry does not benefit US, and the US is the richest country in the world with resources and human resources. Okay, so my thing is that the United States doesn't need Ukraine to drive its economy. This is corruption. It's what we call in Nigeria 419. They're spending money on wars all over the world to benefit a few bankers. So that's what I think. But I think you have to do something, right? So we'll have to cut this, right?
Not quite. No, we're not cutting this. I'm just trying to passing that I'm on something.
Okay. Yeah. So what I'm trying to say is that Trump is very bad for internal issues in America, right? Because it could cause unrest and racism and things like that, or it can highlight it. But the internal issue in America is already bad because the United States doesn't spend money on infrastructure, especially in Black neighborhoods or poor neighborhoods, and it doesn't spend money in the rural areas. So my think is that the U.S. is an empire on the decline, and it's already fixed. Whether Trump wins or Biden wins, things are going to get bad. But I think Biden is dangerous because he is funding a genocide in Israel.
Oh, sure, absolutely.
And this is dangerous.
But what are Donald Trump's what is his stance on issues like gay and abortion?
Oh yeah, so no, Trump has never made statements on gay. Now, to me, Trump is going to side with being anti-abortion not because he's against abortion, but because he appeals to the Christian right in America. And the Christian right in America, the whites who live in the countryside and places, they say that they're against abortion. So that's why I say, so that's a problem and it's wrong. Okay. But there's a bigger problem in the US, which is economic. And the US is spending too much money on war and on weapons. And whether you have Trump or Biden in there, they'll do the same. But my argument is that Biden is dangerous because he's talking about going to war with Russia, with China. And he is at war with Russia because every penny that Ukraine is fighting to kill Russians is coming from the United States. So that means that the US is at war with Russia. And that's money that could be used in the United States that's being used. And it's also affecting, how much does Gary cost in Nigeria now?
It's a lot of money, my brother.
How much does bread? So the point I mean is that the war between Russia and Ukraine, which I am not taking sides on, is affecting Africa. How much is vegetable oil? It's expensive, right?
Expensive, yes.
And you know why? Because
food inflation is right now is about 30%.
Do you know why?
Generally.
So part of it is that Nigeria doesn't produce its own food, but the real reason is that Russia is the leading exporter. In fact, Russia is the breadbasket of the world. Russian wheat goes all over Africa and keeps the prices down. And also Russia has...
And Ukraine too. I have Ukraine too.
Yeah, Ukraine too. So when they are in war, it destabilized the whole market. But meanwhile, Biden wants to continue funding that war. So that's what I mean. So I think that's what the problem is. So yeah, so this is Flashpoint. We've been talking, so I'll
Exchange
let
rate
you
and
end
the
with
global price of crude oil too.
yeah, and it's because of the war. So that's why I'm saying that you should be more worried about foreign affairs for America than internal. Biden is very bad for foreign affairs. Trump is probably a little bit worse for internal affairs. Okay. So yeah, we're busy. We all have to go back to work. And this is our show, Our Passion of Love. So I want you to end and let me know, what are your thoughts? Give me your theory, because I've said my point, but I want to listen to yours, and maybe it can make me review my position on all of this.
I've never really been a supporter of the Republicans. And
Okay.
the reason why is the last time out, I actually wanted Ben Carson to win the Republican seat. He lost.
Oh yeah, he was black. He was black, right? Ben Carson was black, right?
So yeah. I kind of like him. It's as if I may be wrong. I think he's racist, and they're very violent in there. They're like Trump, most of them. And if you look at Trump, most of his supporters, they're like him.
Can I say something about Trump? So Trump is from New York. Yeah.
New York, okay.
But can I say something about Trump? So Trump is from New York, and he's actually a liberal. But what he's doing is he's co-opting their violent view. He doesn't believe in it, but he's a chameleon. He will be what you want him to be. So he's a very dangerous person internally. So what I can see with you then is that
Mustafa, what's the update on his court case?
He's in trouble for misrepresenting how much money he had for a bank loan, which is what all business people do, but they're using it against him. So he could lose. He could lose.
But can he affect the election result? Do you really think it can affect the election?
No. His election results are going up, and here's why they're going up. The Democrats have become elite. They're liberals, and they only worry about New York City. They worry about Boston, Massachusetts. They worry about San Francisco, California. They worry about big cities in America, and they're not taking a look into the poor people and into the rural areas. So every time they charge Trump, the people say, oh, Trump must be the Messiah, just like how the Pharisees killed Jesus Christ. They're trying to kill Trump. So what I'm saying is that by putting all of these political attacks, these politically motivated criminal charges on him, they're actually making him look like a martyr. Kind of like, remember the guy, who was the guy, Sarawiwa, who was killed by the Nigerian government.
And they
called him
leader that was murdered.
But we all know that so what Trump is doing, he's very smart. He's like, look at me. The government is after me. That means that they must hate me. That means that they hate the people because I stand for the people. And the people are like, yes. So every time they put a new charge on Trump, it makes it more likely that he will win the presidency. If Trump went to jail, he could still be eligible for presidency. And they've done studies. If he went to jail, he wouldn't lose any voters, because people are tired. We're tired of wars. We're tired of terrorism. We're tired of the U.S. empire catering to the rich, Republican and Democrat.
The balance of power in the Congress, Republicans or Democrats.
Oh yeah. But the way the U.S. politics works. So here's my prediction: if Trump wins the elections, then the balance will go back to the Democrats. So what I'm saying is that the banks have fixed it. They make stalemates. So whoever is the president, Congress and Senate will be the opposite, and it creates a stalemate, which is what the banks want. That's my theory. And if you notice, the U.S. is constantly locked in a stalemate. Meanwhile, countries like China and Russia, which are authoritarian and maybe abuse liberal freedom a little bit, but they have the same leaders year in, year out, and they have a unified voice, which is why they are rising economically and are about to create a denomination that's going to challenge the U.S. dollar. And I say that that's good, because for us in Nigeria or anywhere else in the world, we should have our own money. But if there's an alternative to the dollar, that's good, because now it balances the field and it gives us room to move left to right. Like
the Naira is so weak. The Naira is so weak. You can't compete.
Oh yeah, and the Naira will keep getting weak.
Well, we don't produce anything.
The Naira
and foreign exchange.
We don't produce anything. And what makes it worse is that the dollar is getting weaker, but there's an economic paradox in which if you're dependent on another country's monetary system, as theirs gets worse, yours becomes even synergistically more worse. So the worse the dollar becomes, the more they're going to put pressure on Nigeria to say, give us your resources and things, and pay us back our loans, and then it makes our money worse. So that's why no matter what anybody takes sides, whether you want Donald Trump or Biden, we have to think of, there's something that Bill Clinton said or George Bush said. He said, it's the economy, stupid. So what that means is forget everything else. Forget about racism. Forget about everything. Let's focus economy first. When I come home and I tell my son, when I want you to go to school, I want people to say that they can call you a girl. I'm not being funny. Dad say, shut up, Dad, and make sure there's food on our table first. Then we can worry about that. You understand what I'm
Better
saying?
still, if he wants to go to an Ivy League school, you know how much that costs.
Yeah. So, Dad, don't talk to me about whether I should be called they or him or she. Talk to me about, is there going to be food on everybody's table?
Oh.
And on our next episode, we're going to talk about what happened in Delta, where the Ija and the Yoruba are fighting each other, kids fighting each other, killing each other. The
Starting to
military tries to
spiral out
come.
of control. There's a lot of mass
Yeah,
murder now.
it's an economic problem. They're fighting over fishery. Those people in Delta are fighting over fishery because there's no money in Nigeria.
Because
And
that
when
place
there's no
is
money,
predominantly riverine.
yeah, and where there's, and this is a lesson on human nature. Human beings are not nice people. We're nice when there's food on our table. But when there's not food on our table, we kill each other. We fight each other, which is wrong. So what I'm saying is that we need to get our economic situation settled. So I'll let you close. Any closing remarks, Afolabi?
Just basically, I think I should add that we can also talk about the spate of kidnapping in Nigeria. One just happened a
Yeah,
couple of weeks ago.
yeah, yeah.
Those
And
school children were released
yeah,
just 2 weeks ago. So we can
yeah. And
talk
I want
about
to,
that on the next
and
episode
I
of
want to say
Flashpoint.
that no matter what you think about the Nigerian military, we want to say thank you for securing that. Maybe I'm naive. Maybe they don't really have a part to play in it. And I also want to say thank you for trying to intervene in what happened in Delta. And because at some point our nation needs to heal. It's one country, whether we like it or not. But the military has problems, the police have problems, the government has problems. But this is not the time to start blaming people. It's the time to sit down and figure out what we can do to fix everything. Okay. So I'll let you close again, Falabi.
Problem at all. It's been
Yeah.
wonderful having this session with you.
Oh,
So
I love it. So this is global
schedule this for another
politics.
time.
Yeah.
Yeah, global politics. But the
Global
discussion
politics.
is
We also have
Flashpoint.
global sports. So we want you to watch us on global sports. We're brilliant Yoruba men. The Yoruba culture goes back thousands of years. We got brains. We can do
Absolutely.
football. We can do
Even if the
poetry.
Yoruba man lives in New York.
Yeah, and you're the smartest kid I know because you do our production stuff. You're a wizard, but you know about football, you know about sports and everything, and you know about politics. So, and also
Learning
we're going to have
Formula 1
another
as well.
Formula One. You're learning it very quickly. Yeah. So thank you very much, everybody. One love. We love Nigeria and we love the world. And I just want to say, vote for Trump. Goodbye, sir.
Okay. All right, Mustafa.